Hi everyone, it's Jordan again, and for today I have a question starting out. What is it that anchors you? What anchors you? In the hard or the difficult or the stormy or just downright uncertain seasons of life, what do you hold on to as your anchor? I want you to think about what your answer to that would be as we read over a Louis Giglio devotional, and then we'll talk more about it. It's called The Anchor of Glorious Grace. The Bible verse that goes along with it is Psalm 63, 6-4. Because your love is better than life, my lips will glorify you. I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. What do you cling to when things get shaky? Question sounds familiar, doesn't it? Often we reach toward and end up worshiping what we think is the strongest, most stable thing in our lives. If you think your job provides your security, you might worship that. What about your family, your spouse, maybe your bank account? These are all too common anchors that people hold onto for steadiness and security. But there is one anchor that is stronger than any earthly alternative. When God's radical grace drops down into your heart, you become connected to the glory of God. And in light of His glory, you begin to find true stability, true strength, true contentment, true joy. The way you worship is often connected to the worth of your anchor, and the radical grace of God is the most worthy one of all. It always demands our extravagant worship. Are you pursuing this type of worship today? If not, ask God to sink His anchor of glory deeper into your soul. Okay, so what did you come up with? What is it for you? What is it we all struggle with? Having earthly anchors, having things in this earth that we hold on to more than God. So what is it for you? For me, I can tell you, I thought about my answer to this, and I think it would be relationships. My relationship with my family or with friends. Relationships just mean so much to me that it's very easy for me to hold on to those and to cling to those as my anchor in difficult times. And I want to start by just saying that there is nothing wrong with those things helping us, right? With friends or family helping me get through a difficult time. There's nothing wrong with enjoying the gifts God's given us or being grateful to have those things in our lives. But there is only one anchor that is stronger than any and all of those things, and that is God. And as I was reading this devotional, it hit me differently this time, because I am always the person to say, and I'm sure I've said it on vlogs, so you've probably heard me say it, I always say, hold on to God because He's the only thing you can't lose. Hold on to God because when everything else is separated from you, God can never be separated from you. And that's true. And that's an amazing, beautiful promise of God. But it almost, when I put it that way, it almost makes God sound like some sort of a consolation prize or some sort of a last option, last resort. Like, okay, you've lost everything else, so go ahead and start having God as your anchor and see how it goes. Okay, you've got no other options. You're out of possibilities, out of opportunities. Everything else seems to have disappeared, so now let's try anchoring to God. And I don't ever want to come across that way. I don't ever want it to sound that way, because it's a beautiful promise that we can't lose God. It's fantastic. Beautiful doesn't even begin to describe how amazing it is that God is something we can't lose, that anchor that never goes away. But we anchor to Him because He's the best possible anchor. Because God is where we find, as the book says, He's where we find our true stability, our true strength, our true contentment, our true joy. I volunteer on a prayer line. I think I've told you all that before. And something that I very often pray in the midst of praying with somebody who's struggling is, God, give this person your, whatever it may be, your peace, your strength, your guidance, your joy, your hope. Because these things can only be truly found in You. So what I'm doing in that moment is I'm recognizing God is the source of all of those amazing things. And I am praying that God would anchor that person in Himself, and so that they could find whatever they need in Him, because He is the source of everything that we need. He is the best possible anchor. And God should be our anchor when we have everything, when we have nothing, and in every moment that falls in between those two. God should always be what we anchor to, what our anchor is. And another point that I loved about this devotional was he points out that what we anchor ourselves to is what we end up worshiping. And that's a really good point for me to remember, that those relationships, am I appreciating them? Am I grateful for them? Or am I really anchoring myself to and worshiping those? When really, the place of worship, there's one and only deserving of that place of worship, and that is God. So instead of trying to worship earthly things that we can be separated from, that can fade away, sadly, earthly things that we know don't have the source of all the beauty and truth and joy and hope, instead of anchoring myself to and worshiping those things, I want to worship God. I want to anchor myself to God and worship God, because there is nothing more worthy of our worship, of our anchoring, of our praise than God. I hope that encouraged you today. God is good all the time. Bye.